morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands Quindy, Disembodied Beard John, and Sulking Absentee Kiki, who really just wants to go out in the yard and dig holes again. But we're keeping her from doing that. So yes, it's princess, spoiled princess dog, wants to do all the things that we don't want her to do dog day. You know, that stage. We're in that stage. I can't wait till she's 3. Yeah, I know your pain, Inara. I know. It's just because, although, well, yeah, I don't know if they can chunk the Siocast material. Like, it would make sense, like, to send an extra arm if it was Siocast, because that's done in-house, like the Bones USA. But at the same time, then, if they can't chunk the mini, because it can't just cast apart, because it's part of the mold, right? So with metal, you can cast it, send somebody an arm, and you can just melt the rest of it back in. But with some of these plastics, you actually can't chunk them and recast them. And so I don't know about Siocast. I don't know what that is. So that would explain why they wouldn't want to just make a whole... They're already producing waste. So they would produce even more waste that way, or the same amount of waste, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Crowley, thank you for the Prime sub. 45 months. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, they're really good about replacing stuff, yeah. Oh no, Quindy. I'm so sad. I know that Twitch Mobile is, like, less than ideal, so... Yeah, exactly, Inara. I feel you. Alright, well, we were working on the scales. I think I also had started taking the void blue and bringing it up into her hair. I think I do want to bring that blue up, and then we can work on doing some shading here, and then maybe some reflection highlights. We'll see. But we'll grab our void blue and we'll grab our wild violet, because that's the purple we're using on this model, which is one of the newer colors, but it's not a limited color, so buy it or it'll go out of print. That's your order right there. But yeah, hey Iffy. The app was created in hell where it belongs. Yes. Yeah, I know the metal part spins. Like, when I was working at Games Workshop headquarters, that was the best part of the job, was being able to go into the bits room, because at that point everything, almost 100% I want to say, was still metal. And although the new plastic sculpts from GW are definitely better and easier to work with, I guess some stuff was styrene, but most of it was still metal. But yeah, it was just so cool to go in and just grab the bits you needed for whatever you were doing. So I get the nostalgia for the days of the bits room. And with Reaper, it was fun to go to ReaperCon and just grab like some of the familiars or something that you would need. But yeah, moving away from it. And I do, to be fair, with the Siocast and with styrene and stuff like that, with the good high-quality plastics and with resin and 3D printer resin, I do, prefer working with that material. I more and more find myself going away from metal as much as I can. There's still some nostalgia attached to it for me, but a surprisingly small amount, considering how long in my existence, metal minis have been a thing, right? My first minis ever were metal minis. But yeah, I find that I actually prefer... since I discovered resin, in the form of busts and stuff, it was my favorite material in no time to paint on. So I guess when the 3D printer resin started, and now the Bones USA feel a lot like resin to me, so I'm pretty happy. So, actually maybe I should go get my project and talk about it for a second. So I had to remind myself of something about skin tones last night, so actually I'm going to go fetch the mini and talk to you guys about it real quick. These days, I don't work as much over white primer, but I primed both of my new models that I'm working on for myself in white. I tend to use Zenith a lot just because I like the shortcut of having the base coat appear darker in the shadow areas. Hi, Kiki. Do you want to say hi real quick? Okay, get up. Oh, no, you don't want to? You don't want to say hi? Go ahead. You can pause up. Yeah, come on. Oh, yes. She's like, this is a wobbly chair, and I'm not a fan, she says. Kiki says she would like to make it a late arrival. She's fashionably late, she would have you know, Princess Kiki. Hi, Princess Kiki. Mwah. You're so spoiled. You're so spoiled. Okay, Bubba. Good girl. All right. But I had forgotten that when you put a skin tone, even a medium skin tone like tan skin, over a white undercoat, it is very light. Like, it looks a lot lighter. Yeah, she's huge. But so I actually used tan skin on this, and it was way too light. So I've covered over most of it. Maybe we can find a little bit of it still on her, but I don't know that we can. But essentially, this is twice as dark as tan skin. Like, this is the color I was originally thinking it would turn out, and if I had been using Zenith, this is the color it would have been closer to, because Zenith tends to be a black to light gray. It tends not to be pure white unless you really murder it with the primer. And so, essentially, I had to go back and mix a fairly high quantity of Asmodeus Red and Russet Brown into my tan skin rosy shadow mix to make it this dark, because this is where I want it to be when I start bringing it up. I'm still going to start bringing it up through tan skin, but it was nowhere near dark enough. And if you don't start dark enough on your skin tones, on your pale skin tones, you'll find that you lack contrast. You'll have to go in. You'll be forced to go in and put in shadows. And for me, it is much harder to go and put in shadows anywhere except the face. Like, I can manage to shade around the face just fine with spot glazing, spot layering. But when it comes to doing actual blends on big skin areas, I find it much easier to build up highlights on top of my shadow than I do to start with a light coat and have to blend in shadows. For some reason, on skin, I find it much more difficult. And if I find it much more difficult, chances are that some of you would also find it more difficult. So when you are working, even if you're trying to, I'm bringing this model up to my skin tone. So really light. This is the shadow color. So when you want to do a fair skin model, keep in mind, make your base coat darker than you think, or you may end up with essentially just a really washed out looking model that you can't see any definition on with the skin tones. Yeah, and you'd be surprised how dark you had to. I mean, remember here we did actually bring in shadows. I started pretty light with her, but I had to bring all those purple shadows in to make it look good. And even then, like, looking at it right now, the blending is like not great. Purple being a little bit easier, I think, to work with on that, but still, the purple is pretty blocky and blotchy, and I had to do that. I had to bring in those shadows, otherwise the skin tone would be completely pasty, and even though I've added in a highlight, it wouldn't show up nearly as well. You need that contrast between your shadow layer and your highlights. You gotta have it. And it's much easier to just start darker and work light, in my opinion, than it is with skin, than it is to try to bring in those shadows and make them blend on something with as big and as smooth, like especially her legs, because their muscle definition is there and I really want to do it justice. I'm going to need smooth blending. So if you're going to do smooth, you got to set yourself up for success. So keep in mind, when you want fair skin tones, start sizably darker. You remember, you can always glaze over it with a lighter color if it's too dark. But chances are it's not going to be too dark. It's going to be dark enough to bring out your details. Because remember, 28mm, you've got to over-accentuate your shadows. So they should be darker than you think. Because at this scale, everything needs to be more pronounced. And that's why we bring our highlights up so much and our shadows down so low. Because that's how you make all these tiny details on this model stand out when it's only 1.5 inches tall. So that was one of my, I had to remind myself things last night. And then, let's see, do I have another one? Yeah, if you guys have never tried this, when you are working with 3D prints and you've got, say, that kind of 3D print liney texture where you've got the little layers showing, although this actually is like little striations on the crystal, but you know what I mean, right? That 3D print, like, topographical map texture. I had a bunch of it on this big crystal at the front. You can see it's completely wiped out now. And the tool I used to do that was this. So many of you probably already know this trick, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Liquitex Gloss Medium is extremely thick, and it's extremely shiny. The amount of skin shared you. If you start dark and work light, I find that it's a lot easier, Kurnico. So if you don't normally do it, think about it. So this stuff is really globby. And this is, Drew Olds was the one who turned me on to this, because he uses it for chibis, because chibis are all 3D printed. But it's really goopy. You can see how goopy it is. Yeah. So, and thick. But you want that when you're trying to fill in those print lines. I was able to take a model that hadn't been printed at a very high, like, you know, at the resolution I would like, that had all sorts of those lines all over it. And I was able to cover it with that gloss sealer twice and totally wipe out. Now, given it was a very cartoony model, which is good, because if it had had really fine details, those details would have been wiped too. But as it was, I managed to apply it and take those print lines off. So if you are working with models where every once in a while you do get that and it's right on a place where you don't want it to be, you have two options, right? You can either buff out those lines with using a grinder or a sander or whatever you're going to use, or you can just fill them in with some goop. And this is the goop. So, and you get, obviously, a lot of goop for a fairly small amount of money. It lasts a while. I do thin it slightly when I put it on. I applied it here, and I applied it, I think, on this one, and stuff like that. You can see how it filled in this crack just a little bit, where the crack is deeper up here, and then it goes down a little bit here. So if I want to go through that, I'll just bring in my knife and essentially wipe it out. Anyway, those are the two little things that little tips and tricks things for today. Since I've been painting, I've just been thinking about stuff that I either haven't talked about or that I could talk about more. So, yeah, the Reaper Brush on Sealer works for real thin, like, or if you've got a slight texture, really slight texture. It's just not quite as thick. So if you have, like, if you're working on a flat area in R, like that crystal, I find that the thicker tool works a little bit better. Michael Proctor has the same opinion as me. He does use Reaper Brush on Sealer for some of that stuff, but he's mentioned to me before that it's not quite as goopy as he would want. We didn't have access to a lacquer base that had that viscosity to it, so I wasn't able to really make anything for him that would have been more like the Liquitex. So, but yeah, in general, glosses are going to be a little goopier, but although this micro gloss is really thin. So the Liquitex is what Drew uses, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. But yeah, for really, really fine texture where you can just see it's just annoying you, but it's not too bad, you could do a couple of coats of Reaper Brush on Sealer. I probably wouldn't, I would probably use it full strength in that case. Since the sealer is naturally thinner than the viscosity of the Liquitex, you probably don't want to thin it. Whereas with the Liquitex, I do thin it just a little bit. But yeah. So the Reaper Brush on Sealer, it's kind of amazing how much it's good for. I was just talking to David yesterday because I have a really pretty block of wood for the dragon to go on, for the dragon bust to go on. And I was sanding it yesterday because we went to Woodwork and got like some raw wood, and it was a really pretty piece, but the end of it had been dipped in wax, so I had to sand the wax off yesterday. But I was thinking about it, and in actuality, the Reaper Brush on Sealer is also a good wood sealer. So if you don't have any clear lacquer, but you have a nice wood base, like a block that looks like it has an interesting pattern that you want to put your model on, you can use the Reaper Brush on Sealer to seal that, like, because it is a water-based lacquer. Like, that's what Reaper Brush on Sealer is built with. So you can use it to seal wood. So there's yet another thing that the Reaper Brush on Sealer can be used for that is totally not intended to be used for miniatures, but you can use it for that. Yeah, that's true. Yes, and that's a really good point in our makes is on faces where you don't want to lose detail, but you might have that fine texture. You could totally use the Reaper Sealer because it's not going to kill the detail like something thicker like the Liquitex will. There's a fine dance between filling in that 3D print texture or whatever texture you've got going on for whatever reason and knocking out detail. And it also depends how deeply the detail is sculpted, obviously. So, experiment a bit. Oh, hard coat, yeah. Any thick sealer, any thick sealer is gonna work, although the hard coat is, I gotta say, a lot more expensive. than this huge glob of. So it's a gloss medium. So you can also use it for water effects. It's all of these mediums, guys. All of these mediums and gels and crazy stuff. Like, it's all the same family of stuff. And the difference is in the viscosity, but it's all acrylic. So you can use it for anything that you can imagine that might make sense. Like, you can use it, you know, it's not just a medium, it's also a sealer. Like, mediums and sealers, as far as art stuff, tend to be the same darn thing. Like, because you're just putting a layer of acrylic over your painting to seal it, but you're also adding glossy acrylic to your paint to make it shiny. So it's a medium. So the only difference is how you're applying it, but chemically, it's usually the same stuff. Yeah, that's true if you don't have a 3D printer. Well, Quindy, if you need me to print anything for you, my new hobby. I did look and found a really cool brazier, by the way, on my mini factory that we can put on Corindra's base, assuming I can print it tiny enough. Well, any gloss sealer can be used for water. Like, it's just the characteristics of the gloss sealer are going to be like, how much does it evaporate and how thick does it stay? This stuff, pretty thick. I think a couple of coats, you could do puddles pretty easily. The Reaper sealer, you need to build up a lot of layers. It's more like Woodland Scenic's water effects, where a lot of it evaporates, right? Because it is a water-based lacquer, and a water-based lacquer is made of water in a large part, right? So it is going to have some evaporation. It's going to shrink. This stuff with the higher viscosity, just looking at how well it filled in that texture and kind of like just looking at the thickness of the layer, I think a couple coats of this could make puddles really convincingly. And of course, you know, doing things like, I don't know, I haven't tried the saliva trick with it. It's not quite that thick. It's not as thick as the stuff that Michelle Farnsworth uses. Which I forget comes in a small tube, but... Boobs take up a lot of resin, huh? Oh, Kundi. Someday. Maybe for your birthday or Christmas, you should just say, could you print something for me? Oh, come on, Zachariah. Yeah, the Uhu glue. Lord Zephyrus, thank you. I forgot what it was, because I so seldom use it. Yeah, the splash gel. Oh, yeah. It takes forever to cure. Yep. Yeah, Woodland, I mean, GW or GSW, there's a lot of cool effects out there. Hi. But usually chemically, like, you can mix everything with everything, pretty much. Although, depending on if you're coloring your water effects, you're probably going to find that a dye works a little bit better than a paint as far as coloring it. Although you can use the De La Rowney inks, they'll just add a certain amount of opacity, but that, like, I think David used them for his Mermaid, if you remember the Mermaid with her awesome ocean base. But with that, you kind of want opacity. Like, the water in the ocean has opacity because it's got so much particulate matter in it, right? So, depending on what you're doing, you might actually want that. So again, it's always, you know, what your intention is, what the purpose is, what are you trying to duplicate, and what does it actually look like. All right, where's my dropper bottle? I'm distressed. Where did it go? Did I drop it, Kiki? No, Baba, where's my water? Where's my dropper? Oh no. I'm like totally missing it unless I brought it in. Maybe I brought it into the other room. Dang it. Hold on. I have to go fetch it. I can't survive without my water dropper, you know. I could just use the freaking water in my jar, but no. I got it. And now that I've got it, I'll totally find my water bottle. But I think I probably dropped it on the floor and I just haven't noticed. Oh no. The splash gel. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Woodland Scenics, I think their water effects are really versatile. Really, really versatile. But a lot of people like the AK stuff. AK resins and stuff. No, Baba. Go settle or I'm gonna exile you. Go settle. She gets so excited whenever I get up because she thinks it's time, but it's not time. Go settle, Baba. Work, work. Work, work. What are you doing? You're such a fiend. Hi, fiend. Hello, little furry fiend. Yeah, you're totally a Cerberus right now. You just wait till I start painting your bust. I'm going to be calling it Kiki. Okay. Uh-oh, Quindy. This is not safe for work, is it? I have to look. I have to look. I can't not look. I must look. Must look. Must look. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's funny. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Hey! No. The dog. She honestly, like, it's safe for work enough. It's silly. Does everybody want to see? Do you want me to show the stream? The safe parts. It's all safe parts. Mostly. It's hilarious. Show us. All right, Quindy, should I out you? It's totally safe. It's hilarious. It makes me think of the fish heads, roly-poly fish heads song, to be fair. Yes, guys. This is a fish-headed lady with a lot of booty. I'm just saying. I don't know the Fiji mermaids. They're ridiculous. Okay, well now everybody has to run out and get them. Where did you get them, Quindy? Give them a shout out. I didn't know they existed, so I thought they were hilarious. It's the opposite. The inverted mermaids. Yep. Oh, okay, my mini factory. The inverted mermaids. I think that's pretty good, though. Alright, got my hair color, got my violet, got my blue. Let's do a mix of those two things, shall we? Just in case I want a quick halfway between point. The blue is going to take over, so I want to make sure to keep that in mind. So I only put like half a brush full in there. It makes a very nice indigo, though. So void blue, wild violet, mostly wild violet with some void blue. Yeah, I approve of those mermaids, actually. Oh, is my dog going to be a good girl? That never happens. She's such a pain lately. Hi there, pain girl. You going to sit here and chew? She's like, fine. I'll do what you want me to instead of what I want to. Granny go. We should have known, right? That's why I had to go look. I had to go look right away. The glimpse into Quindy's mind. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Oh, I was going to show you guys the brazier to put on Corindra. I think I like... There are many people are doing lip braziers, but I think I like this one for in front of Corindra. It's that. I think that'll work really well, and I can do a little bit of, I'll take a closer look at the fire shapes, but I like the fire shapes. They're simple. And I like the kind of beaten texture of the brazier, and it's really inexpensive. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I will put that on the print list by the STL. It gets far stranger. Quindy's easing us in here. It kind of almost does, you're right. I think it'd be a pretty versatile brazier, and if I wanted to change the flames and sculpt a little more material there, I could. So yeah, I think that'll work for Corindra, as long as I can get it the right size, figure out the right size for the diorama. That's the challenge with the 3D stuff, right? You never know if you need it a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller until you print it. All right, I'm grabbing my blue liner too. Hello, Nitro. Oh. So we're working on Mermaid today. Working on mermaids. So the Fiji mermaids were actually like, you know, suitable. Actually applicable to our current project in a way. At least related. Alrighty. So now we've got our hair colors. Plus I've got some blue liner mixed up. Uh-oh. The puppy is being a dork, Papa. Papa! I'm gonna exile her, guys. She's just really, really pushing it lately. Go. Nope. That knot cannot be dug out of the floor. No, it cannot. It cannot. Ha-ha. All right, exile girl. You're being very exiled. I know. Exiled. Papa exiled. She's just full of it lately. She's acting out all the time, trying to get our attention with bad behavior. She's actually got put in her crate last night before dinner. She hasn't been put in her crate for months. That's true, Quindy. That's true. Okay. So let's do here. Let's grab some of this indigo and start popping in some shadows. So I'm alternating light and dark. Areas that are curving away from the light, I'm going to do in shadow. Areas that are curving out, remember that hair is highlighted on a bell curve because the light is going to pass through the hair. So it actually goes from dark, mid, light, mid, dark instead of up to light and then to dark like NMM does. Normal is relative. So we're going to pop in more of a dark blue shadow in here. And I don't worry about painting strands or locks until I'm a lot longer along in the process. Just like with these scales, we're not bothering with individually painting the scales at first. We're just blocking in the masses. This is a really good model to teach yourself that way of working, where you don't get hung up on every little thing and you're painting things based on, let me see, highlight, let me just figure out where I want my shadow to be. There we go. Painting things based on like the masses of stuff, because when you look at hair from a distance, you don't see the strands, you just see the masses of hair, the top of the head. You know, you see a highlight, you see a shadow, you see more highlights. Oh my gosh. Small Scottish cat. He hates Rathalos. He must think Rathalos is like another cat or something. He's just like, I hate this model so much, stop working on it. Like, it's to the point where really you should just use Rathalos as a distraction model to keep him away from all your other models. All right. Reading is weird, huh? Wow. So I am gonna shade, that said, I'm gonna shade underneath the hair around the face because it helps bring the face out more. I'm gonna put a shadow in here but not as dark a shadow, because this is still pointed up, but the main highlight's gonna be on the top of the head, kind of the halo effect, kind of the way that you can see my hair going. See this like highlight that goes up top of my head, that crown highlight, and because I part my hair on the side, you only see a bit of it here, and it goes along the top of the part. But there's still that halo, that round halo shape. And so when you've got that hair parted on the side, like here, you know automatically then that the rest of the highlight's going to go here, right? And you're going to have a dark shadow down the middle. He just hates it. It's his nemesis. He's decided that in his super villain cat world, his nemesis is the Rathalos. So we will go in and we will shade between these big locks of hair, but we're not going to concentrate on that yet. We have terrible air quality here the last day and a half. And today looks like it's also going to be awful because fire is north of us. Then the wind shifted to bring it right down the coast to us yesterday. Or I guess Tuesday evening is when it shifted, but it's just lousy air quality. I can't wait till it's gone. I keep checking it to see if it's gotten better or worse. Well, it's gone down a tiny bit. But we are still orange for air quality. Look at that. Ugh. Green is good, by the way. And red is really bad, and you should be using like filtered air probably. And purple is beyond that. But yeah, it's pretty awful. Oh, but our wind is shifted. Our wind is shifted, and that's good news. That should give us a little bit, hopefully, of a respite at some point. It's just awful. Although, have you guys seen Canada? Like, I did not realize. I had been hearing about the fires in Canada, and I did not realize. So I'm going to give you guys a point of comparison here. So right now, this is us, right? We've got little fires that have contributed to some bad air quality along the west coast. But here, let's look at Canada. Canada is on fire. Like, Northwest Territory fires, insane. Look at that. I feel for those people. I did not realize how bad that was until I looked at the whole map yesterday. So be happy. If you are in a place with good air, thank the universe for your air today. That's all I'm saying. We don't realize how happy like clean air makes us until we don't have it. Oof. Yeah, it's true, Inara. It's true. But it's huge. It's huge. Yeah, some of those fires have been burning for decades, but I don't know that it's been this bad for a while. There are essentially evacuation, strategies for people coming into Alberta right now from the Northwest Territory. Yeah. Ugh. I expect if those fires are in the wilderness, which a lot of the Northwest Territory is, that they would have been burning for decades, just because there's nothing to stop them, right? But yeah, I was just shocked when I looked at that yesterday. So yeah, thank the universe for your happy, clean air and your lack of smoke. Yes, you just have a lot of wet. Skeleton spider ornament yesterday. Oh yeah. Ornaments get weirder and weirder every year. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's definitely a thing like California and the Northwest has, right? We were lucky all year up until this point. We hadn't had anything. We had a lot of fires the year before. And the year before that, I remember. But this summer, we actually really didn't have a lot. Or any real one that I noticed. Yeah, just ucky air, like my throat feels raw. My throat feels like I have a kind of a sore throat, but I don't have a sore throat. It's just the air. There we go. So we're just going to block in some more shading. And wherever the shading naturally falls, like in here, we can see we're going to be putting in shading there. How many skeletons can you add to your office before you get fired? That's funny. Well, you know, it's Halloween. You should be able to add a lot. Make sure you have at least one in the closet. And sometimes if I'm not sure where to put a shadow, I'll just block it in, and if it doesn't look right, I'll just alter it as I go, because the hair is a work in progress. Like, you know, as we added highlights, you can totally wipe out like shadow areas that you don't want. So I'm adding for Halloween. Yeah, I know, and it's just you. You're gonna accidentally leave them up year round. Yeah, accidentally. So I have some blue liner here so that I can add darker shadows if I want, but mostly with the hair I think I'm going to be bringing it up, so that's why the shadows don't look too shadowy. Hey Slayer. Alrighty. And I already added some down here, and some back there. So I think maybe it's time to... I'll keep those colors open, but I'm going to mix up a highlight, I think, for the hair and start thinking about that. Let's see here. What do I want to use? So if we want the violet to like keep its intensity, we'll use both a magenta and a white to highlight it. You can also use various pinks. Here I could use... Runic Glow is probably the easiest highlighter. Yeah, right, they're up early for next year's Halloween, right. So Runic Glow is pretty much magenta pigment and white. I think it has a little bit of a blue shade red in it as well, but I don't remember. I have to check my notes. But we will use Wild Violet. Now, if we just added white to this, it would stay a lot more blue. But usually when you're dealing with a warmer light source, which we definitely are, we're bringing up our scales to, you know, a warmer color. Our skin, we're brought up to a warmer color. So we probably should bring our hair up to a warmer color as well. So that means it goes more red, less blue. Yeah, I'm happy how my little Moonlight mini is coming now with that skin tone. Should be good. And I put in her hair next. But you can see, like, when I paint for myself, like, I use the same techniques I use on this show. So I'm going to add a couple drops, about a little less than 1 to 1 on this, just to see what color I get for my highlight. And I might add another drop of pure white if I feel like I need it to go lighter. So we got this color I'm mixing. Yeah, Kerniko, I think I told you guys about the giant spiders in the house down the block. They just like gave the spiders Santa hats for Christmas, and they had little American flags for the 4th of July. It's just these monstrous, like, probably 2/3 the height of a human spiders, furry spiders that are up on their house. Comic book work is me. Well, but that's because I'm purposefully pushing myself to try a new technique, right, Pendrake? Like, that's how you get better. And I am very much if I'm not learning something new, I'm stagnating. I have that mindset. That is a key part of my personality. And I'm really feeling it lately. So, yeah, if I'm not learning something new, then I actually get kind of depressed. It's weird. My brain really always wants to be learning. It's very happy when it's learning. And if it's not learning, then I get sad. I won't even realize why for a while, often. It's my weird brain. So that's not making enough of a difference. We can see the difference. You can see the warmth compared to up there. But it really isn't much of a difference at all. Now, I can use this as a transition color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple drops of this Runic Glow, a drop of white, and then I'm going to carry over some of this into that mix to give me more punch, essentially. Little color changing ghosts. Somebody loved them and took them away. That's funny. Yeah, it's all the hobbies, and it's just I'm always pushing myself. Like even within each hobby, Slayer, I'm always like trying to learn something new. I'm experimenting with something, and what I'm trying to learn at any given point is usually tied to whatever pastime or hobby or job that I'm most strongly into at the moment. I mean, knitting was kind of that way too, and I'll come back around to it probably this winter. I did finish my cowl, but okay, so I've gotten this slightly lighter version, and I put one brush full of this into it to take it down. I'm going to try to use that. Inside of your apartment? Yeah, you hope not. Maybe Egret hid them. But yeah, so I mean, whether I'm trying something new because I'm into painting again, or I'm trying something new because I'm learning something new about writing or about publishing, or I'm, all that kind of thing. There's just something in my brain that feeds off of it. So I'm still not really paying attention to strands, but I am making sure that my brush stroke is in the direction of them. So I'm not going to use like the wrong brush stroke, the brush stroke that goes against the grain on this, because I want that texture eventually. I'm just not doing it right now. So that definitely brings up the hair a lot more. You can see that highlight. Oh yeah, moving, that's right. Yeah, lots of things do that. So yeah, but I do have that brain that just wants to be making progress. And the 3D printing thing is nice because that definitely fits the bill as far as learning new stuff. Speaking of which, I just noticed 2 little tiny bumps on this model that I need to take off. Oh, and then I lost them. Oh, they're there. There they are. They're over here. There's 2 little tiny bumps. But yeah, so stuff like comic book work happens because my brain is like trying to figure out, hey, there's a thing and I'm interested in it and I need to try it and figure it out so I can teach other people how to do it. That's the natural progression. The learner mindset is totally like the next progression of it is really so I can show other people how to do it. Like people who are big learners, who have a lot of learning as part of their like brain set, like just tend to also be teachers. Depending. All right. So where some strands might come out and catch the light, I'm going to actually put an extra highlight on those, even though most of my highlight is going to be on this wave. But yeah, it's a weird thing having this kind of I'm not moving enough, I'm not learning enough, I'm not developing enough kind of ennui that settles in if I'm not doing enough of X. I worked a bit on the new book yesterday. Realized that I need to rewrite the first 2 chapters because, of course, they were written a long time ago. There's still core bits of them that I can use. At least I'm not rewriting a whole freaking book like the first two. And I added a chapter onto the beginning. You could call it a prologue, but I never call them prologues. But today has to be a Patreon day because I am officially behind, and I need to get on top of it. This coming week is going to be all Patreon. My writing self is going to be very grumpy, but that's the cost of going to ReaperCon. It's being behind on stuff that I have to catch up on. So, just pretty much concentrating on the outside of this group of hair because that's where the light is hitting. You can see we probably should have a shadow in here because you can see the shadow that comes down from up on the mini when I focus it more towards the light source. You can see that all of this should be in shadow. So I'm going to take my blue and block that in. Hey, Trash, thank you. Trashorama with a 44-month sub. Awesome. Awesomeness. But yeah, this time I'm working on the Metallics PDF right now featuring the ReaperCon colors, although I will talk about other colors that applies to as well in the Reaper line, other colored metallics. I realized that I don't know where I used to have all the colored metallics, but I can't figure out where I stuffed them. So I may have to order a new set from Reaper. Because I was going to do some direct comparisons and then I couldn't find them when I went looking yesterday. Everything should be in the paint box, but the metallics tend to be dragged out from time to time because I need them. Oh, cool. Cool, Iffy. Yay! Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for liking my book. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you liked the novella too. It's a short story, but it's a long short story, so it's technically either a short novella or a long story. 14,000 words? Something like that? I don't remember. Maybe more than that. Maybe it was 20. But or 18. But yeah, I never write short. But I'm glad you liked it. Thank you for reading. Thank you for buying it for a family member. When you finish the second book, if you have time, we're still trying to get reviews on book 2. I think it's stuck at 4, I think it's at 4 right now. And I am like super focused on trying to get it to 10. Because 10 is like the minimum like viable, you're for real kind of review number. Some people won't even look at a book if it's got less than 10. So that's my goal. So if you've read it and you have a second, you don't have to write anything. You can just leave me a star review. That counts. But I would appreciate it with my whole soul. Because that part of me will just relax a little bit when I'm up to 10 reviews on West of the Moon. 20k words, this is a Zelazny novel. I think technically his are 50. Right, Pendrake? I mean, but a lot of books were thin back, like, earlier, right? Like, Zelazny wasn't the only one. There's a reason National Novel Writing Month is a 50,000 word novel. It's because there are a lot of classic novels that are only 50,000 words. And I would consider Roger Zelazny pretty classic. That's cool. Yeah. No pressure at all. No pressure at all. I just like to bring it up every once in a while. Because it's like, a lot of people, myself included, like, I need to be reminded to leave a review. Because it doesn't, like, it's not a natural thing that I tend to do. But if one of my favorite authors has a note in the back that is like, oh, please leave me a review, I really need reviews on this book, I totally do. I just need that reminder, so that's why I bring it up on here from time to time. Because I know we've all got so much crap going on in our lives. So I'm starting to block in highlights here. Using the previous highlight that wasn't really sharp, I'm using that as a bridging or blending highlight. And remember, it goes down under as well. This is going to feel counterintuitive if you've been working on a lot of NMM. But it doesn't stop here. It actually keeps going because the light will pass through the hair. Aw. Thanks, Iffy. Well, I will trust you that you will leave a review if and when you have time when you're done with book 2. Although if you want to leave a review on book 1, or if you haven't, that's cool too. I think we're up to 22. Hoping I'll eventually get a few more reviews from the promotions that I did. Oh, you already did on book 1. Thank you. Super duper. I'll stop talking then. Yeah, I really appreciate all of you leaving reviews on book 1 and reading it at all for that matter. Because it matters so much. Like, so much. Like, I was looking at BookBub ads. I actually applied for a BookBub ad the other day with East of the Sun because I let it drop out of Kindle Unlimited. They won't even look at you if you're in KU. It's one of the bigger, BookBub is the biggest promo site as far as email promo sites. And I got refused, and I was kind of happy about that because it is really expensive. But they've got millions of subscribers. But one of the things they look at is number of reviews. If you only got, like me, you've got 22 versus this other dude with 56, chances are that other dude's going to make it in. There are other things they choose based on too, but not a big deal. It was more like, can I get one of these? And the answer is not yet. Yeah, well, people do that though. There have been years I feel like I disappeared. And sometimes you just disappear from one part of your life, right? Like right now I have disappeared from the dog scene for the most part. Oh yeah, that's right. We were going to add in some shadows. And because I've been working on so many other things, and there are other priorities in my life, and I'm burned out on the dog thing. After so many years of fighting to keep it going, so I'm taking a break. So I've totally dropped out of sight. But I'm still here in other aspects of my life, so I think sometimes it's healthy to do that. It's just like, I need to take a break from this aspect of my life. I've just added a lot of things. I was realizing, it's funny, I was listening to a podcast, a writing podcast with a lady who is an author mom, and she has a kind of a system for author moms. And I was listening to like her, why do author moms kind of need systems more than anybody else, and it's like all that stuff applies to me because although I don't have kids, I have like communities. I have like more than one job. I have a husband and a house and a dog, even if I don't have kids. I still have all of those things. I have the Patreon and a writing career and, this nonprofit that I help out. And then the house that I have to keep mostly in order from day to day. And the dog who I have to worry about. And haul to the vet unexpectedly, So I'm like, I'm not a mom, but I feel like this podcast spoke to me anyway. You know what? I don't care when it hits, Zachariah, as long as it hits eventually. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate every review. And it takes time. I get this. Like, we're a very small author community right now for my books. Very small. We are tiny. We are very, very tiny, but we will grow. It just takes time. I have to keep reminding myself, because some part of me is totally impatient, of course. I mean, look at me. Instant gratification. But I have to remind myself, I've only been doing this for 6 months. Like, I've been writing books for 6 months. Why am I expecting miracles? It's like, I'm getting miracles thanks to you guys. Thanks to my friends and fans and people who like fantasy, and who read my book and, shared it. Like, it's because of you guys that I've even got the amount of success that I've had. So I am eternally grateful. Without you, I may have gotten disheartened and just not done anything. I don't think I would have, because eventually I would have hauled myself back up, but who knows? Maybe I would have not kept working on Bear Kings. Maybe I would have written Queenmaker instead, which I'm still going to do after Nano is over. I'm just not going to get any work done on North of the Wind this month. Not significant work. So I'm going to have to do it in October, November, which means I'll be finishing it up in NaNoWriMo. And then I'll have to see if I have the oomph to do Queenmaker in December, January, February. Yeah, instant gratification takes too long, yeah. IKR? Oh. Yeah. And I kind of have decided that I want to try out publishing on Royal Road, the free fiction platform. I kind of want to start Queenmaker on that. Which means you guys will be able to like read it in installments if you want to, or wait until it comes out, or just give it a try, read the first few chapters and decide whether it's for you. That's my cozy fantasy, my cozy progression fantasy. The nice thing about not starting that right now, though, is that I have time to work out the magic system more, because I think this is going to be my first granular, like Brandon Sanderson a la magic system, where it definitely like has a structure and a progression, and so that takes work. So I'm working on that while I have instant, like, little bits of brain. I love Carrie Fisher. I'm so sad that we don't have a Carrie Fisher anymore in the world. You could have gotten the Werewolf Paladin romantic fantasy earlier. Is that what you want, Korniko? Are you challenging me to write a Werewolf Paladin romantic fantasy? Like, do I have to make a note of that? You know that's how the guy who wrote Dresden Files wrote his fantasy book. Is he put it open to his fans, and they told him they wanted him to write something based on Pokemon and something else, a fantasy based on Pokemon and something else, like a couple of tropes, right, a couple of like ideas, and that's how that whole series was born. So it's like Kurniko's vote for the Werewolf Paladin romantic fantasy is noted. And he still look like dude. Hey Gibson, we're talking about writing. Kurniko wants me to write a Werewolf Paladin romantic fantasy next. I have to put that on the back burner, I think, though. Unless I get such a great idea for it that I think I can bust it out in 30 days. Like, sometimes books are like that. Sometimes they hit you, and they're just like, okay, I can just do this. Ah, yeah. Okay, I'm going to write down Werewolf Paladin romantic fan. I'm even actually going to not just write it on a sticky note. I'm going to write it on my phone. In my writing note. Wait, where's my writing note? I need to make an ideas one. Here we go. Here, we'll do writing ideas. And remember, I do believe what Andy Weir says, that he has 100 ideas a day, and like 100 of them are bad. Werewolf, Paladin, romantic fantasy. Is the Werewolf Paladin the main character, Kuro, or is he are there two characters, and is he the romantic interest? No. This Queenmaker is different. This is the Werewolf Paladin romantic fantasy is not the granular magic system. Queenmaker is the granular magic system. The one that I'm really, really figuring out. Oh, I think it's a Werewolf Paladin. Forest Hearts and Armor. For Kuro. Well, it's on my writing ideas note. I have now created a writing ideas note, and we just let those things percolate. And sometimes they don't go anywhere. Ah, the alpha dude's equal to the spunky female lead. I think people write alphas bad, so like too many of them are actually jerks. I feel like we're giving women really bad examples. Like sometimes I give in and read some werewolf romance and I'm just like, I hate these people. Yeah, or they have a brain cell, but somehow that brain cell doesn't translate into treating the female with respect. Like, it's just like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, if I write that, like, it has to be Kate Daniels. Like, it has to be, like, the female that is absolutely capable of kicking the alpha male's butt. Right? It's just that the fight would cost them both too much. And so they just can't go there yet. I do like the "you really annoy me." Like, I hate to say enemies to lovers, but I do like the really, really, like, not my type until you are kind of thing. Like, I like that. I like actual character growth arcs. This is why I don't read a lot of romance, because I find that it's lacking in those things. We could do the flip, but I think Kronika wants the werewolf to be a dude for the first one. We could do the flip. I don't read enough werewolf romance to, like, hit all the tropes that people expect, probably, though. That's the thing. The biggest fantasy in those books is that you can fix the partner that acts like that. Fix. Yeah. I know, right? See, and I hate that. Like, that's why romance doesn't call to me as much, except, like, paranormal romance or where the woman is just as every bit as badass as the guy, and the or urban fantasy. Like I said, the Kate Daniels stuff. I really love her Hidden Legacy novels, the superhero ones. Essentially, they're superhero books. Based in an alternate modern world again, but I really love those because she manages to put alpha males in those, but she also manages to, like, make her women, like, formidable and with ethics. Or they, I should say. When I say her, I mean they, since it's husband-wife team. But yeah, the thing about writing a tropey thing like a werewolf romance is that you have to learn the tropes, or you won't satisfy the audience. You'll write something that's a little bit quirky and weird and outside the box, and most people won't like it because it doesn't satisfy their tropes. So, it's an interesting world we live in. But if I was going to write to market, I would have to force myself to read a lot of werewolf romance. I would have to do that Google search on best werewolf romance. Manatee romance. Yeah, I agree, Crowley. Although even some of those they lose the characterization a bit more if it's fantasy. But yeah, I've read some male romance just cause. Like, I try out a lot of different things. Like, if it hasn't, it's all fantasy stuff, right? But like, because fantasy romances is usually as close as I get to wanting to read romance. I've read a couple of contemporary romances recently that one of them I actually enjoyed a bit. It still could have gotten a little bit better with the characterization, but it was decent. So I do dip my toe into those waters every once in a while. But in general, like, I want the fantasy element to be there. Like, even though I'll read a contemporary romance if just the character sounds like somebody I could relate to, and the premise is interesting. But usually I have to, if I'm going to read a romance, it's a fantasy romance. There. So just going through, hitting the highlights where they are, and I'm not totally hitting the strands. If I miss and I totally paint a highlight into the shadow between strands, I'm okay with that at this point. We're only going to work on the texture when we get to the top level. Yeah, when doesn't it get derailed? Usually, Pendrake, if I'm going to read, I'll read on my lunch, like while I'm eating my salad. Although lately I've stopped doing that because it can totally distract me from focusing on the afternoon, I've noticed. So more often I allow myself to read in the evening, especially when I do this set of physical therapy exercises toward the end of the night where I stretch. Like I do a lot of long stretches just to kind of get myself feeling better in time for bed so I sleep better if I straighten out my neck and stuff. And a lot of those are reclining stretches, so I just read while I do them. Like if I have to do a stretch on each leg for like 7 or 8 minutes, I'll just sit and read. Yeah, the hair looks good. Like hair looks good when you just hit the highlights right. Even before you do any strands or anything. But yeah, so I make time to read, and sometimes on the weekends. Like if I've got my Sunday or my Saturday blocked out as just a gosh darn it and please relax today kind of thing. I don't like that rough little plastic there. Hold on, I've got a little plastic burr on this highlight. I'm going to take it off. Then I'll read. But yeah, I don't read a ton. But I do still make time for it. And sometimes I'll let myself, like, after I finish, like, my big action task for the afternoon, I'll let myself read for half an hour. I used to be a voracious reader. Like, when I was a kid, I'd go through 10 books a week. Easy. Like, we'd go to the library and we would load up. Now I've got less time for it, but I still really enjoy reading. And especially now that I'm writing, it's a whole different experience. Like, if I'm reading a genre that I might want to write in, like a fantasy variant, like the cozy fantasy stuff, or I'm just curious about a genre, like I have been with a lit RPG, then I'll read and kind of absorb, like, okay, is this genre, like, something that I would want to write in? I still need to read Rachel Aaron's lit RPG, because I like her as a writer in general. So we're going to pop in some more highlights in here. I'm looking for the right balance of like game mechanics and story with lit RPG. A lot of them are just a little hard on mechanics, and I'm like, I want a little more story, like a little more character, a little more stuff. I used to think about sci-fi, Pendrake, but I am not suited for it. I don't read enough of it, and I'm also really lazy about research. Like, I would not be a candidate for hard sci-fi. I could probably do space opera. I have, from time to time, had, like, ideas for a sci-fi story. But the thing is, and this was pointed out to me by a Hugo Award-winning author that I took a workshop with when I was in Texas, Rachel Swirsky. And she, I had actually brought a sci-fi story to that workshop. And she's like, this is really, here are the awesome things about your story, and I think it's professional grade. She's like, however, because you don't set it up at the beginning, specifically, like giving us the cues that it is science fiction, think about it, this could be a fantasy story. And I was forced to like realize that like any of the sci-fi stories that I had in my brain actually worked just as well, if not better, with fantasy, with a fantasy premise. And that's where I live. Like, fantasy is what I read. I also have read science fiction. I do very rarely pick up a science fiction book nowadays. But the science fiction that I like, with the exception of Andy Weir, big exception there, and the reason I like his books are because they feel like reading puzzles. But otherwise, the sci-fi that I most enjoy has very little on the science, and it's all on the character. I do not like sci-fantasy. I do not mix the two, Gibson. I actually, I think the closest, Like, I read some of it when it was back in the 80s and 90s when science fantasy was kind of like getting some popularity. But I decided that, with the exception of, I do like putting like a little bit of steampunk in my fantasy from time to time. Like, the cozy fantasy, actually, the cities kind of feel pseudo-Victorian. At least the city that we start out in does. And there is limited technology. Like, I like that. I like the world where limited tech is developing alongside magic. And I like urban fantasy, obviously, so there is, like, a point where I do. But as far as, like, mixing the science fiction with the fantasy, it just doesn't work for my brain. My brain doesn't... I mean, yeah, Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is fun, but would I write it? No. That's the thing, is, like, as a writer, you can enjoy a bunch of different genres, but would you ever write one? No. Like, my world, I used to joke about my mana addiction, guys. Because whenever I played a role-playing game, I had to play a magic user character. And when I write, it's similar. I have to have magic. I have to have it. It has to be somewhere. Like, I just love it. I just love the potential. And whether it's just fairy tale magic or whether it is like more of a structured magic system, doesn't really matter. But I have a mana addiction and I cannot lie. So yeah, after I took that workshop, I realized that really, like, my sci-fi ideas were cool, but they could also just be fantasy ideas with just a little bit of tweaking. And I even decided that, with the exception of one, that I liked the fantasy. I liked them better as fantasy. Because I'm not into... Like, I'm into science because science is fascinating, but am I into it enough to write a book based around it? Probably not. Like, I would say that fantasy in all of its permutations is my genre, except for, like, science fantasy, which I'm just not drawn to. But urban fantasy, cozy fantasy. I even like, as far as genre crossing, the one thing I do really enjoy is mystery fantasy. Like fantasy detectives, I do really like that. So I may not like science fiction mixed with my fantasy, but I love fantasy detective series. But that's where I don't like it, Pendrake. I don't like spaceships and planets. Like, I like airships. Like, I do like airships. I've written a Zeppelin story. Kind of a cult adventure. Like kind of like Indiana Jones-ish type of story. And there is magic in that, along with the Zeppelin. But, like, with the Indiana Jones world, you can get away with that. So I do like that. The cliffhanger style action adventure with a touch of fantasy. But again, I consider that more urban fantasy. Just an older time urban fantasy. But where it goes to planets and space travel, that's exactly where my brain says, nope, not interested. I'm done. Like, all the life, all the interest and energy, it drains out of it for me. It's just like everybody's got their own, like, preferences, right? And we all have, like, today's writing world is just proof that we all really do. I mean, look at miniatures, okay? Look at miniatures right now. So many companies doing so many different styles, with so many different takes on mermaids, like Quindy showed us earlier, right? Different takes on X and Y and Z. And no matter how weird it is, or how out there, or whether it's reverse fish mermaids, there will be a market for it. It may be a small market, but it may be enough for that person to actually, make enough money to make a difference for them. So it's the same with books. Is everybody's got a very specific, like, books types that they like, right? Book types they will read. And not everybody reads cross genre. Some people just read romance. Some people just read mystery. Some people just read fantasy. A lot of people. So... No, I mean, I would play the game, but I'd never want to write it. There's a difference there. There's a real difference there. It's what you can enjoy experiencing, Gibson, versus what you personally can pull out of your creative well, right? There's a difference. You can't just choose. Okay, you can, but it's hard. And I don't think I would ever want to do it. Some people will write to market. There is a certain type of author that will write to market. They will perceive a genre that is underserved, and they will set out to learn that genre, draft a book in that genre, and publish books in that genre because there's demand that's not being met. And they will make money that way. I am not that kind of writer. That's not how my brain works. I have too much of myself in my books. So writing to market for me is a very foreign concept unless it's something like cozy fantasy where I already was attracted to it and now it's starting to be a thing. That kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what I read, Agent Marvel. It kind of is, but it still has that concept of other worlds and stuff. I don't know. It's just... Yeah. I don't know. I like the world. Maybe it's my world builder. Like, I feel like, okay, we could go outside of the world, but the world is still there. Like, the world is so fascinating. Why would you need to go outside of the world? Maybe I like sandbox, where the world is the sandbox. But I like the borders to it. I like that it is one world. No idea. Oh yeah, I march to my own drum. That is, yeah. Ask my parents, Zachariah. Especially my dad, who was quite chagrined about it at times in my development. But yeah, it's totally it. I'm just, I know who I am. I know what I write. I know what I like. And so that's why it's so hard sometimes. People like throwing ideas at me, and it's hard to explain. That just doesn't resonate with me. And if it doesn't resonate with me, I can't write it. Or if I did try to write it, it would be trash because I would just dislike it. Like I wouldn't have any connection to it. It has to be, for you to stick with something for 100,000 words, it has to really resonate with you. And it has to be a good enough idea to power 100,000 words. Yeah, well, that's why you shouldn't run Spelljammer. Or, I mean, essentially, if you like some things about Spelljammer, ask yourself, okay, what specifically draws me to this setting, and can I just do it in a regular fantasy world, right, Gibson? So. But yeah. I don't know. I'm just persnickety. I'm persnickety about what I like. I'm willing to stretch myself, like right now, reading the lit RPG, like dungeon stuff. And I'm enjoying some things about that, and other things about it, I'm like, okay, I don't enjoy this part as much. And that's just a learning experience, but I'm still reading it. Yeah, right. Xenomorphs, yep. I don't know. It sounds familiar. Shadow World. Let me look at that. Pendrake. Let me just pop it into my Amazon real quick so I can look at it later. Shattered World. Remember, I have read some science fiction, but in general, I don't pursue it. M. Reeves, do you have that? I'm not seeing it on Amazon here. Not seeing it on Amazon at all. You sure you got the author right? Oh, yeah. Xenodragon. Alright, so we've mostly... I need to get a little bit more highlight here. We've mostly got some more highlights blocked in, and I have created the final highlight, which is this kind of similar to spectral white, I think. The purple white that I created a long time ago for MSP. I think it was a holiday color. I don't think it ever went anywhere, but I really liked it. Yeah, maybe, or no idea. All I can tell you is it didn't come up on Amazon under that search. But yeah, I just like I grew up reading. I mean, I did read some science fiction or science fantasy, if you will. I mean, I love the Pern books, Anne McCaffrey. Like, those were the first science fiction I ever read, I think. Like, as far as adult science fiction. Although I did, and I read a bit of Asimov, and I read some Arthur C. Clarke, and I've read some of the classic sci-fi. It's just not for me. Like, even in role-playing games, my favorite sci-fi RPG was one that had, some spirituality in it. Like, had some, powers outside of our comprehension in it that felt more like magic. I don't even remember the name of the... Fading Suns. That's it. Faded Suns or Fading Suns by Bill Bridges, who was the main writer on Werewolf the Apocalypse, my favorite role-playing game, before White Wolf was bought by their Norwegian overlords or whoever they picked them up. I can't remember. And I do like superhero stuff, which is kind of like science fantasy, right? Let's face it. So I do like that. So, but that's even though I like reading it, yeah, again, I don't know if I would ever write it. You only have a limited amount of time as a writer. Writing a book takes a while. And so you only have a certain number of books you can write in your lifetime. When you realize that, you start being real picky. It's like, well, what stories do I really need to tell? It's not, it would be fun to write this. Not unless you're one of those authors that can crank out a book a month, and I'm not that. Or I guess I could. It would just, burn me out majorly, and they would be suck. Oh, Michael Reeves, okay. And the spelling of the last name was different. Got it. Neat. Yeah. I'll look it up later, Drake. But I mean, right now my reading is very much... I don't read my genre while I'm writing, and I'm writing a book right now, so I'm not going to be reading any, fantasy, classical fantasy, anything that feels like it. The lit RPG seems to be different enough that I can actually read it. Normally I'm reaching for cozy mysteries when I'm writing, because they're different. So put some white highlights on here to really bring out the shine. Oh, time check. Yeah, thanks. So a little bit of white Just a little bit of white to bring that that feel of motion out. That's the other thing you can see, right? When you start adding your highlights where you are paying attention to strands, you start feeling more of the motion of the hair. Like it feels more like it's moving. Okay, so he's written for he and Neil Gaiman co-wrote. That's interesting. So he probably maybe I'll look up Interworld because I'm a Neil Gaiman fan, so that would get me into. I find that sometimes like I'm not as into writers who write for TV or write for series, like TV series like Star Wars or Star Trek, but I'll look at Interworld because I like Gaiman's style. So again, concentrating now on strands more and on locks, so we're bringing more of that up. So you can see how that comes up there. A little bit more light there, and I'm just working out this area to see the shine in the hair and really bring her hair up to be glossy. Disney with no faith in the Gargoyles franchise, huh? Well, they are an evil empire, you know. You should kickstart it. Although, to be fair, it's a lot easier to kickstart animated. So again, concentrating now on the actual features of the hair. I am bringing this highlight up a bit more on the edge of the hair here, because the light would hit. Yep. They're called the mouse, or okay, so back in the 80s, my dad was a vice president at Six Flags, one of their theme parks, and whenever they referred to Disney, they referred to it as the mouse. So yes, it is an evil empire with mouse ears. And if you actually read Cory Doctorow's books, especially Makers, where Disney is an enemy, an antagonist, they also refer to it as the mouse. So yes, because it makes them cute and it'll sell better. Why do you think I bought this Cerberus model, this 3D print Cerberus model? It's totally a skeletal undead Cerberus, but it has ears, Pendrake. It needs ears. It has to have ears. Hold on. Because the ears make it cute. And yeah, I'll, oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, this is my new friend that I'm going to print out and paint. It's Kiki. But no, you gotta have ears. Yeah, be right back. Gonna buy a wolf skeleton with ears. Yes, exactly. Exactly. The ears make this model. Without the ears, I would not buy this model. And I bought it because there are ears. Because it gives it so much more expression and personality. I'm just going to go with it. So I disagree with you on that one, Pendrake. I disagree with you. I own this STL. All right, so I guess we should stop. I mean, I went short a couple days, so I thought I would go a little longer today as we were working on the hair. But you can see, like, I don't know, everything is very the same. Like, the skin will take lighter, so that'll go up lighter. And we've got that dark anchor. But I'm thinking about taking, like, her bikini a little darker. I don't know. When you do multicolored stuff like this, it just tends to sit all in the mid of the value scale. And the banner will be a little lighter, the skin will pop up, so we will have lights, and I just feel like we need a bit more dark in here somewhere. So I'll have to think about what I'm going to do here on the shells to add in some dimension. But yeah, so all right, we'll call it there. I think I can remix these colors. I'm going to get out my card for her, which is around here somewhere. Not there. Did I leave it up here? Yeah. Gonna do just a little bit of swatching so that I know what I did for the hair. "24-hour stream." No. That's a tag team stream where you like have 3 different streamers or 4 different streamers. Everybody does like 2 hours at a time. And then you have somebody do like 4 hours. You make sure to have somebody from Europe there so they can do like when other people are asleep on one end. And you like get a night owl for the other end. Alright, so I gotta write down what I did here real quick. Yeah, there's all sorts of inexplicable skeleton creatures out there, but sometimes I love them. Wild Violet plus Runic Glow. $90.39 plus 1 brush. And then this is Runic Glow plus white. There we go. Now I have my stuff. 8 hours of fighting the cats for ownership of the minis. Yep, that would be entertaining. People would watch that. So there we go. We got our hair shaded, and we started some highlights on it. So that's coming up actually very nice. After I finish this hair out, I'm really going to want to do the skin, like finish highlighting the skin, because if it's going to feel too drab next to all those poppy hair highlights. And then we'll start working all around everything else. 24 hours of the Quinny LaRue Variety Hour. That's great. Yes, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Tomorrow is Friday. And our Friday mini tomorrow is Beautiful Jolie. And we were working on gold this past time. Maybe I'll do book if I have a good idea for book. I need to think about book. Oh, we did red. That's right. We were doing the accent color last time. But yeah, I really like her. I really like how her face and skin tones turned out. She's coming along really well. Oh, we did the glass too. That's right. So yeah, so either we'll do gold or we'll do the book tomorrow. It depends. I gotta come up with a good idea for the book. So we will see you tomorrow. Yes. Saving cash for donations now. The Quinny LaRue Variety Hour sales! Must sale! Alright, everybody, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. And Henrik, I'll go check out that author. Thanks for the recommend. Alright? Thanks, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.